Good afternoon. We are live, and I've got the lovely Claire with me. I'm just trying to sort out all my cables here, and I'm going to play Claire a little song, which I actually played last night with my band, Claire. So if I mess this up, then you can have your money back. 25 years and my life is still trying to get up. A great big healer of hope, for whatever that means. I realized quickly that I knew I would, that the trouble was the brotherhood of man, for whatever that means. I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? There we go. I'm not going to play the full song because this is all about you, Claire, not the song. But last night we were doing that song and we had the whole pub singing along to the chorus, which is just immense. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so, I can imagine.
Why did you choose that song?
Wow. Do you know what? It's funny because when that song came out, I was a teenager and my twin used to listen to it all the time. I mean, it used to drive me crazy until one day, I have to admit, I took that tape because on the tapes with just 2 songs on them, and she would listen to the 2 songs, flip it over, and listen to it again all day, every day. I absolutely hated it. And it's like, oh my God. But as life kind of goes on, the song actually grew on me, and as an adult, I love it. I love that song. Linda Perry, who's the lead singer in Four Non-Blondes, she's created a massive career actually of songwriting and things like that. So I actually really connect with her music.
Oh, what a great story! What a great! And now we know you're a twin.
You do indeed. Yes,
absolutely fantastic. Identical, and I bet everyone asks you that, don't they?
Yeah, everyone always asks, but no, we're non-identical.
It makes it easier for everybody. Thank you for that. So thank you for coming on my show today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Claire.
Well, I'm a photographer here in Falmouth. I work to do brand photography. I do brand, promotional, and portraits. And really what I do is help people and organizations to capture their story so that they can share it with their audience.
Fantastic. And you also do a little bit of podcasting as well, don't you?
I do podcasting, and I also do my own personal photography projects. So I've created a book, which launched just at the beginning of lockdown. So I think that's probably why we did quite well on that book, because everybody needed something to look through and read with their time off.
Fantastic. Oh, tell us a little bit about the book.
So the book is on Cornish mines, but there's been a lot of pictures taken of Cornish mines above ground. I actually wanted to explore below ground, so I was very fortunate. I do actually have claustrophobia. I can see your face. I have claustrophobia, but I managed to work through it. Went to some really fantastic mines. So there's a few mines that are being brought back, if you like, to their former conditions, and I got to explore underground.
Fantastic. Are they starting to mine again, or are they more a tourist attraction?
Well, not even. It's I guess it's not a great word, but a hobby mine. So it's mining enthusiasts that like to go in at the weekends, do some really hard work and graft of digging, and making the mine safe. So yeah.
Oh, cool. No, I like that. And we've got to preserve our heritage, haven't we?
We do. And there's actually there was something over 2,000 mines, and actually, not many people have seen underground in today's world. And actually the mines, we probably think of them as quite dark and dingy places, and they are, but the color underground is actually something that can really take your breath away.
Wow. It sounds like a fascinating book. We could just talk about mines forever, as you know, I hail from Cornwall, not from Hale, Indian Queens. I didn't realize there was thousands of mines. I just thought there was a few. That is incredible.
It's quite the honeycomb below us, to be honest.
A little bit worrying if you're going to build a house somewhere, isn't it?
Well, I think that's why you get mind surveys and things like that done to make sure.
Definitely.
And yeah, maybe stay away from certain areas if you're thinking of building.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, anyway, back onto the plan. How long have you been on LinkedIn?
So what surprised me is only 10 years. It feels like a lot longer than that. But yeah, March 2012. That's when I got on board.
When everybody was going nuts for the Olympics, eh?
Yeah, yeah, that would have
Yeah.
been around then. That's crazy.
It is, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you use other social media?
Yeah, I use Instagram, of course. What photographer wouldn't want to use Instagram for the photographs? I I do a little bit on Facebook, but I have to admit I'm not that keen. And a little bit on Twitter, not nearly enough as you probably know yourself. You have to be on a lot.
It gets too much, doesn't it, with all the different platforms, and it's maybe pick the one that's best for you. Do you post your own content on LinkedIn, Claire?
I do. I still do. LinkedIn is one area. So I've been looking at trying to get somebody to help me out with the other platforms, but LinkedIn is somewhere that I think it's a place where you can be a bit more personal, isn't it? So and
Yeah,
it's about
absolutely.
building personal connections, not necessarily anything else. So
Yeah, well, people buy from people who they know, like, and trust, and what you're doing is you're putting out your personality, and we start knowing you, we start liking you, we start trusting you, and go, oh my goodness, we need a photographer. It's got to be Claire. So yeah,
yeah.
that's how it all works. What do you find the best sort of time for you to post content, Claire?
When the best time is when I have time. So maybe you've probably heard that one a lot from people, but I don't know. Certainly lately, I've been so busy with photography that social media hasn't exactly been on the forefront of my mind. But normally, if I am going to do it, it'll be maybe in the late afternoon, early evening, because that's just something that I can focus on just as I'm winding down
Yeah.
and think about that content.
And that's the thing. It's got, lots of people say, oh, you've got to do it at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday or whatever. But it's what's right for you. And if it works for you, then you're going to do it more, which is absolutely superb. And do you get business as a result of what you're doing on LinkedIn?
I actually have had a couple through.
You make it sound like you're surprised.
Well, because I've had this, it's taken a long time to come around to the idea of social media. I'm
Sure.
quite stubborn sometimes in terms of my thinking of like, I have to do this thing, but I've figured out that you don't have to do anything. It's what you make of whatever you do. So once I've kind of got over that kind of mindset of, I have to do social media, and I'm not a natural social media person, but actually, if you take away the word social media, it's just connecting with people, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my training workshops, that what I try and get people to understand is it's like a big networking meeting, but it's online. So you got the BNI, you got the Breakfast Club meetings, you got whatever. It's just like that, but online. And who doesn't want to go and say hi to people?
Yeah.
Richard is agreeing with you. The best time is when I have time. It's a very good point, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Doesn't matter. Do when it's right for you. Hi, Richard. How are you doing? So tell us a little bit about the type of customers that you work with, because there's a lot of talk about this brand photography. I'm not selling a product, so you can't take any photographs of my brand, can you?
Wow. So actually, that's an interesting take, because most people actually assume that brand is their logos, or the typeface they've chosen for their website or things like that. So interesting that you associate it with the product. But brand is so much more. It's actually about how we communicate with people. It's what we stand for. It's how we do things. And actually, you can capture a lot of that with photography and videography very, very well. Sometimes, we might say something with words, but if our photos aren't actually kind of summing up those words, then actually we've got a real disconnect, and the brand isn't going to come forward. So, we might say we really like quality, and we believe in quality, and then our photographs are not quality.
Yeah.
That's a real problem. But no, the types of clients that I have, it could be the solopreneur, whether you like that word or not, but it can be
We
somebody
know who you're talking about when you say solopreneur.
Yeah, solopreneur. But it's personal brand, isn't it? Personal brand is about who you are and what you stand for, what you do, how you do it, and everything like that. So we might go from solopreneur or the bigger organizations. So places like the Truro Cathedral, I work a lot with their branding, photos and videos. So yeah, it can go from really different ranges, and sometimes I even do product shots. But I mean, that's the thing with brand photography. I kind of it's kind of like being able to do every type of photography. So for some organizations, I could be going off and photographing the people and what they're doing and how they're doing it behind the scenes, and then moving on to food photography or different parts of their building. So it's kind of like a phrase for being able to photograph everything. And well, but connecting it with a single thread of story, which goes all the way through.
Yeah, I've got images in my head now of I don't know what you'd call the minister that is at the cathedral, but I got images of him doing that by the altar. But I've also got images of you taking photos of the architecture. Truro Cathedral is amazing, so I can imagine some really atmospheric shots inside and out. So. I totally get the idea of branding there. That's great.
Yeah. And I'm so lucky actually with being able to spend so much time in that beautiful building. I even teach photography in there.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it because and even when I'm teaching, I'm always looking at that building and I think I learn a lot from people who are learning photography because they see things in so many different ways, and it teaches me to see even more different ways than I would normally do if I was on my own. So it's quite a thing.
No, that's a great point you just make there. When you're teaching people, you obviously know more than them because that's why you're the teacher. But then they're coming in with other ideas that you've never thought about before, or stuff like that. And I'm teaching my workshops, so I spend a whole week with my students for a whole week. And I'm teaching all this stuff, but the amount of stuff that I'm learning in return, it really is the gift that keeps giving, isn't it?
It really is, and it is. I mean, people are coming up with these incredible cameras these days. I mean, and you can't always help like with every single technical issue that's going on because they're just they just blow my mind. But it's how people see and how people question things and. I think that's a positive thing to actually for anybody to do is to teach.
Yeah, perfect. If anyone's got any questions for Claire, please pop them in the chat. Here's a question for you. I just thought off the top of my head: Nikon or Canon?
Very good. My personal choice is Nikon.
Okay.
But you know what? There is hardly any difference nowadays. And what I find really interesting is that Nikon used to have a bit of a green shift with the blue colors, and Canon used to have it absolutely spot on, really, really nice blues. And in later years, I've noticed it's kind of swapped a bit. Okay. So I mean, it's so close. If you're a photographer, you'll notice. But I'd say there's little difference. But funnily enough, apparently Nikon, and I didn't know this, so I didn't know if I could ever swap and use a different system because Nikon has its focusing ring is in the reverse to other brands. So
right, okay.
I've learned this today, and actually, that's going to confuse me a lot. I think I would have many weeks of just getting frustrated when I'm trying to do manual focus.
And that's a bit like jumping from an automatic into a manual car, I guess. If you're so used to, or a left-hand drive car or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it would throw you. I spent 20 years with Nikon, so
but the other thing is you've got all of those lenses. Whenever you upgrade your camera, you've still got all your lenses, and the lens is the most important bit of kit, isn't it?
It is. And I use prime lenses, so that means the glass quality is going to be much better than like using zoom lenses. So, and they're not cheap. They're really not cheap, and I wouldn't want to have to change systems.
No. So and like you say, that they're I think they've always been pretty close to each other. It is just a preference. And what happens is one of them will bring out a new camera today, and everyone's going, oh, wish my brand, and then 6 weeks later, 10 weeks later, whatever, they so they're always like, oh, they got the best, yeah. So you've just got to go for it, haven't you?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing even wrong with older cameras. It's just that the newer ones have got so much capability, especially with videography. But yeah, no, it fascinates me, especially like, when people are obsessed about getting the latest camera, and it's like, well, let's kind of bring it back to like the basics first, and let's make sure that your basics are up to scratch before you get into the complicated things of all those extra buttons. Yeah.
Great question from Richard. I had a brownie, Richard. Maybe too young to remember developing old school film in a darkroom. Have we lost something with the disappearance of that craft? Great question, Richard.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. Well, actually, do you know, I started off with film, a film camera, and I had my own darkroom. But you know what, the smell of it still makes me kind of gag a little bit of how strong
the smell. Yeah.
It really is, and especially like, I've had nightmares. I went to college. I went back to college to do some more photography, and I have nightmares where I spent 3 hours in a dark room trying to unravel my film to then get it into the reel so that I can then process it. So for my personal experience, I've had some total nightmares. In terms of disappearing of that craft, a dear friend of mine actually, and she's in her 80s, and she spent her early life in her 20s and 30s as one of the top darkroom kind of specialists, and she was developing these incredible photographs for some top photographers in Paris.
Wow.
And I've actually referred to her. So I had so with my digital editing, normally everything's perfect, but I had this one complicated photograph that I really needed to get well, and I was like, I want your advice, for that artistic input of, what am I missing? There's something missing I'm not missing. And that artistic skill is so tuned in even after all this time. So yeah, I think in some ways we are missing it. We are missing a little bit of that craft.
And I think that is the same with an awful lot of things in life today. I work with bookkeepers and accountants, and they bring on new trainees, if you like, an apprentice, and they give them Xero or QuickBooks, and then off they go. They're doing bookkeeping. Well, you speak to the senior partner of that practice, and when she first started in accountancy, she would have had to done double entry bookkeeping, so she knows how it all works. And do you know what I mean? And I think because your friend has been there, done that, and been in the dark room, she can turn around and go, well, you need to do this on your editing software, and then you'll get that same effect. So yeah, it's interesting. Great question, Richard.
Yeah,
it got us thinking, didn't it? So what challenges do you have at the moment with your business then, Claire?
Only good ones at the moment, and that's kind of managing. I'm seeing a lot of growth, which I don't know. I mean, I read about like the current trends at the moment where people, we don't know how things are going, but certainly my business has seen a lot of growth, especially in the last couple of months. So it's kind of managing that time really, and looking to grow my business, hopefully bringing on some extra people and things like that. So that's where I am at. And being able to manage social media as well, because I still want to connect with people, but when you're really that busy, that those kind of things kind of disappear somewhere in the background, don't they?
And that's the thing. So I've been in sales for 30 years, and I've always been consistent. I'm sort of like, right, I need to do this. You've got to make, when I first started, it was knocking on doors and making phone calls. And so, every week you've got to do that, and that. And then I'd be really busy and got loads of business coming in, but I still kept doing that. And I work with colleagues that they go, oh, loads of business. So they stop doing that. And then all the business dries off. So they have to do more of that. And they're just doing that all the time. Yeah. And if you can be consistent and just a little bit every day, then you'll keep getting it. And the problem I see with some people, we're far too busy, so I don't bother doing any social media. But tell people that they're going to have to wait. They can be customers of yours. but we're not booking anything in until September or October or something like that. And people are happy to wait because they know you're brilliant.
Wow,
So,
that's actually the interesting, really interesting way of managing things. And I mean, you find quite often with photography, sometimes it's like, I must have it now.
yes.
Yeah. So, but not everybody can have it now when you're that busy. But
No.
yeah.
But they are
sometimes
prepared to wait. If you
they
think
are.
about some of these really top restaurants, you know, you can't book a table for the weekend. It's probably, oh yeah, we're starting to take, but we've now just opened up for November if you want to book for November.
Yeah.
Wow, you must be good. Have you got anything for the first? No, it's about the 15th. Right, okay. Oh, let's do the 15th then. Perfect.
Yeah.
No, awesome. Richard's got another question. Don't want to hog the questions. One more. Has the skill of composition in the viewfinder gone with the ease with which high def images can be cropped and manipulated? Oh, that's interesting. So we just take a photo of everything.
Yeah.
Just all of that,
Wow.
and then we can just make it smaller. Or do you still?
Judith, that's actually really interesting. I don't know. I'm still of the kind of more old-fashioned kind of notion, if you like, of you get it right in your camera first, and then you've got the quality. But there's also a thing which I actually learned when I used to do a lot of freelance stuff with newspapers, and I learned that you did have to give space around your subject, so you can't always get the perfect composition, because the newspapers like to have space so they could crop it to whatever size that they needed. So and really interestingly as well, nowadays with we've got websites more, and those photographs actually do have to be able to be used in more ways than just the one thing. You don't just take a photograph for a social media post, so you wouldn't capture something thinking it's got to be in square format. You have to think that photo has got to be used in several different ways, and like website banners, they're long and thin, aren't they? So your composition rules, you have to kind of bear in mind all of that kind of thing. I think I'm losing the thread of my thoughts there, actually.
No,
it's an interesting. It's more interesting. So you could be taking photographs which are perfectly in composition, but they're not going to be as useful to the client. Not like they used to be.
I think because you're old school and you used to use film, and I'm the same. You've only got 36 in your camera. You can't just go. I look back in my phone and I've like 1,700 photos of the same thing, and you're sort of like, why did I take that many? Because it's not.
Which is the thing of digital, isn't it?
And
do we ever look back through them when we've taken 10 of one subject?
No, we
don't. But yeah, there's that discipline of making sure you get it right first time, if you can.
I like that. Yeah,
because otherwise you're wasting time, and time is money. And that's one thing. If you're there for an hour and you can get X number of photographs more of quality images that are different, that's much better for the client than having 50 of the same image.
Yeah, no, absolutely, superb. Oh, thanks very much for all your questions, Richard. I've got one last question for you.
Okay,
Claire, thank you so much for popping in today. I'd like you to put into the chat at the end your podcast and your link for your book so people can get hold of all of that. But what tip would you give your 16-year-old self?
Probably not to take things so seriously.
Lots of people say that. We do, don't we?
We do, but I think also on that is to explore more. I think certainly, I had a very fixed idea of where I wanted to go when I was 16 years old, and I had this idea that I wanted to be a volcanologist of all things and explore volcanoes, and until I got to university and discovered that actually that's a lot of maths. It's not as exciting as it seems. It's not just going up volcanoes and having fun. There's a lot of mathematics involved in that. So I think just being open to the journey rather than the goal of where you're going, I think that would be the key.
So hang on a second. You've got a volcano degree?
I've got a geology degree. So I got as far as I never took the volcanology side of it, which came in the second year. I actually ended up specializing in the changing climate change, essentially global change, and fossils. Totally different from volcanoes, but yeah, that's one of my early career moves.
Oh, fantastic! So you've been up to Charmouth and that along the coast here from me.
I have indeed, yeah,
Absolutely
many times.
superb.
I've only found a few small fossils so far.
Oh, brilliant. Claire, thank you so much for coming along. Lovely to see you. And we will be back again next week with my secret guest. I'm just trying to negotiate that she can make it. So I can't make an announcement just yet, but I watch this space. But Claire, you've been lovely. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks for all your questions. And we will be back next week. Cheerio, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.